Yes,
Got
sir.
a great guest. First time here on the Live Well, and I'm looking forward to this conversation, getting to knowing this young man. Will Harkins of the National Professional Fishing League. Does that ring a bell right
Yes,
there? Does that sound
sir.
good for you right there?
Yes, sir. That's perfect.
That's like how you want to be
Oh,
introduced
yeah.
right there?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Hey, so listen, you're 22, right?
Yes, sir.
22. We're going to talk about it. This guy's got a little bit of a meteoric rise going on right now, so we're going to put the pressure on him. Got my buddy Kevin Thornton in the house again with us tonight. I just told him we're going to have to scoot you over. I want everybody to see that fine face right there. There you go.
I'm here.
There you go. Mr. Beautiful's in the house right there. And behind the screen, the one and only T. McGuire back there running it. He does some good work, and he's got a growing channel. We want to support that. You got any social media?
Yeah, for sure. Will Harkins and Will Harkins Fishing, both on Instagram and Facebook.
And Facebook. You don't do the TikTok game?
I don't do the TikTok game. No, none of that. No Snapchat, anything
No,
like that.
well, Snapchat will get you in trouble, so that's a good thing. So, one of the reasons I asked Will to come on, you guys know we have a very good standing with the guys over at the NPFL. We've had several of them on, Big Al, Rob Robleski, Trent, of course, with Sonar Pros. And it's one of the pro fishing circuits that I actually like to watch. And I noticed this kid. Yeah, I can call you kid because you're
for sure
half my age. So I know this kid here, and I'm seeing what he's doing. And here's a pretty impressive stat: you finished second last year in the Angler of the Year points for the NPFL.
Yes, sir.
And what's even more impressive, I want you to tell everybody how long you've been professionally fishing.
So professionally, this was my first year. As far as anything above the local level, 3 or 4 years.
Okay, but professionally in your first year, you took second in the NPFL.
Yes, sir.
Have you just sat down and thought about that accomplishment?
Yes and no. Obviously I'm not content with it, I guess. Extremely grateful for the opportunity and to be able to achieve that. But at the same time, we're there to win. So
I like your attitude. Now, we're going to talk a lot tonight about fishing in the winter, some techniques and stuff. You guys hang out for that. But I want to hit on this a little bit because a lot of kids, a lot of young guys, a lot of adult guys, older guys like me, they dream of professionally fishing. And a lot of guys put in a lot of time, never make it.
Yeah.
Never make it. Never, or even if they do make it, they don't have any success.
Yes.
Your first year, dude, straight out of college. And you fished at Young Harris.
Yes, sir.
You fished at Young.
Yep.
Remember, you can't call me sir. Remember, I told him this kid's called me
me
sir
that.
like 40. He's the most, him and Paul Marks Jr. by far polite like that. So I'm just kidding. I'm giving you a hard time. You can do whatever you're comfortable with. But, you went straight from college. What made you decide to jump into the NPFL?
Yeah, so a couple things, I guess. I fished 2 years in the BFL's college series while I was in college. So that kind of jump started what I wanted to do in life. Really, up until that point, I was going to college, getting an economics degree, getting a job like everyone else. So fishing was always a side thing for me. Never thinking, I'd get past whatever.
Yeah.
So I fished the BFLs, finished second and third in consecutive years AOY there. So I was like, you know what? Let's try it. So I hopped in a Toyota. And then I actually met Rob Robleski.
Yeah.
And he kind of pointed me, said, hey, this is NPFL's third year, looking for some guys. I think you ought to apply. So I was like, I'll apply just to see, but I needed a ton of things to fall into place in order to fish it. I had a 20-year-old boat. I had, no sponsors, none of that. Self-paid, all of it. So definitely had to have a lot of things fall in place for that opportunity to arise. And they did in a matter of weeks. So we hopped on the NPFL train this year, and it turned out pretty well.
Now, you go into your first tournament. What were the emotions, the feelings, being not only being young, but being a rookie,
Yep.
I mean, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So if it tells you anything, Pickwick was our first event. Day one, I fished both dams of that lake, and it's 50 something miles long. So I was scatterbrained as all get out.
Yeah.
Just fishing anything and everything. I was running down the lake. I didn't have a good practice at all. So scratched it all. And so that was my worst finish of the year. I think I finished 28th or something. So that was definitely a big learning curve as far as the decision makings, how to practice, the time to put into it and all. So from there, we got better each event at those decisions.
Yeah. Where did you finish in your first one?
At Pickwick finished 28th.
So you finished in the money.
No,
Right?
they
That's
paid top 20.
Top 20.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep.
So you're just outside of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Out of how many boats?
They were 76.
76 in that one.
Yep.
So still, that's a very respectable finish for your first ever pro tournament.
Yeah. Going into it, I was like, top 30 would be cool. And so just to start off. So it worked out.
Yeah.
And that ended up being the worst finish of the year. So I was happy.
Your worst finish of the year was 28th.
What was your weight?
Ooh, I had like 7 pounds the first day, and then 17 the next day, and then I think 5 the next day.
It was that was a tough tournament though for everybody, wasn't it?
Yes. The weights were low across the board except for, those top 5 guys or so.
Yeah. So for everybody that wants to know, you're from Blairsville.
Yes.
He's from Blairsville. So you would consider Chattooga your home lake?
Yes. Yeah. Not only Chattooga are about the same distance.
So, we have a lot of guys that talk about those two lakes, and I know a lot of guys that go up there and fish it. They fish similar to Lanier, and Lanier, of course, is the big lake around here that everybody's talking about. So we're going to get to that.
Yep.
But I just find it interesting. So your first tournament, you finished 28th, and that was the worst of the year. And you had like 6 or 7 events.
Yes. Yeah, 6 events. Yep.
And did you win one?
We tied for one and lost the tiebreaker.
That's okay. That's what I was. I knew there was something with that.
Yep.
And
yeah, that hurt.
What lake was that?
That was Eufaula, Oklahoma.
Okay. Yeah,
so
that's the one you ended up second, and that was that. You did have that tie.
Yeah,
right
we finished second on Lanier as well, but it wasn't that close. Walters kind of blew it out of the water.
He did. Yeah, he had a very good tournament. I'm sitting here thinking, and probably a lot of the viewers are that, all right, first year, 28th was your first, 22 years old. You just basically blew up on the scene.
Yeah, it was very, very quick, unexpected for me. At least
unexpected or expected for you, like you had high expectations for yourself.
No, right? I honestly had 0 expectations. I honestly thought this would be a crash and burn year.
Yeah,
because you're going into the professionals. I mean, all these guys you're competing against, the John Cox, Patrick Walters, and you just show up to the ramp with these guys, and you're like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
So it was definitely unexpected for me, and I think very little expectations overall going into it for me.
Well, let me ask you this: as your season progressed and you start doing a little bit better, there's got to be some chirping going on from these guys. Like, who is this kid? Did you hear any of that? Did guys start being more approachable as the year went on? Once they figured out this kid can fish.
Yeah. So the joy of the NPFL, what I love, is the family atmosphere. It's so tight knit. There were 76 guys this year. So about everybody,
right?
So as the tournaments progress, you get to know these guys and get to talking. So it definitely makes it a very comfortable environment to fish in. So the stress level kind of falls off.
That's why I like it.
Yes, yeah.
It seems like it's like the Common Man Pro Tour.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think that's one of the cool things about it. Did you ever get tired of Big Al going, "There's the bone"?
You said it a few times.
He did.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
He's a good dude.
He is. He's a trip.
And he's one of the few people that Mike can out-talk me.
Yes.
We had him on, and he was a great thing. So I want to hit on the NPFL real quick before we actually get talking into fishing, because that's what everybody wants to know. I kind of told you upstairs.
Yep.
People will watch, but they want some tips, and they want to know how you're catching your fish.
Sure.
So you're getting ready to start season 2 of the NPFL.
Yeah.
What's your goals, number 1, for this year?
I mean, obviously everyone's goal is to win. But more specifically, I want to win AOY. That's what I view as prestigious over winning a tournament. The $100,000's awesome. It could definitely use it.
Yeah.
But AOY just is a season-long thing, so that's always been my goal, no matter what trail it is, local or professional, is to win that AOY.
And y'all's AOY last year came down to the last event, didn't it?
It did, yes. There was 3 or 4 guys in the running for it. Todd Goad, who ended up winning it, he was a few points ahead, but he still had to catch them at Lanier, which he did.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he did. All right, so real quick, we're going to go over these lakes. This is the NPFL's schedule for this year. And I want to get your opinions on what's your favorite lake on the schedule and what's the one that you know nothing about or is your worst lake. Okay. So you got Logan Martin in January, Lake Armistead in March, Hartwell in May, Pickwick July, Saginaw Bay, which is one of everybody's favorites, smallmouth fishing. That's in August, St. John's, and Lake of the Ozarks. So of those, which is the one you're looking forward to the most?
Man, I would Initially I said Hartwell because I know it the most, but I really think Logan Martin is the one I'm looking forward to most.
And why is that?
I've only been there once, but it fishes really fun and really good. That place is full of fish, doing what I love to do, finesse wintertime fishing.
Okay.
So that's definitely going to be an interesting one. From just a fish catching perspective, Saginaw, you cannot beat it. You'll catch 100 fish a day, no problem.
All right. So which one of these are you least looking forward to?
Amistad. That is our championship from 2023.
Yeah.
And March, largemouth in the south, that's probably going to be a spawn tournament. I'm guessing. I don't know anything about it. And sight fishing is something I hate to do and do not like doing. So that's probably the one I'm least looking forward to.
Now, when you say do not like doing, is it more you're just not comfortable doing it, or is it like you have like a moral objection to doing it?
No, I don't like it. I don't like fishing for bedfish. Yeah, they're so frustrating at times because you'll see all these 6 to 8 pounders and it's like you'll never catch them.
Yeah,
but
it's tough. So with all this, I know you said you like wintertime finesse fishing. Do you consider yourself a power guy or a finesse guy as a whole?
Finesse, 100%. You've got to be versatile. Yeah. But if I had to rely on one, finesse completely.
And does that have to do with the lakes that you grew up fishing?
It does, yes, for sure. Specifically Chattooga. Because I mean, spotted bass are so picky with everything, so you've got to get just the tiny details dialed in. So like we don't throw braid and we don't throw the big line and all that stuff. So it kind of forces you to adapt those finessier tactics.
So on your spinning setups, you don't use braid at all? You don't use braid to fluoro leader or anything like that?
Yes, I will use a braid to fluoro leader.
Okay, all right. But, okay, I got you.
Yeah, just as far as flipping and all that stuff.
Okay. All right. So how did you develop that? Is it just who taught you how to be a finesse fisherman?
Yeah. So I guess it kind of all started with my grandpa. He took me fishing when I was 3 on Notley. And he's been kind of the leading figure in my life, so to speak, from a fishing perspective, and from a just how to look at the world kind of perspective.
Yeah.
So he's been big with that. And we'd always go out there and just throw a Texas rig on Rocky Banks. So you kind of, that's where it kind of gets you to looking at more of your eyes tell you what to fish, looking at the banks, looking at the rock, looking at the structure, things like that. So that's all we did was throw worms.
Right.
So that's kind of the finessier side of things, how that came about.
Okay. And so going into, college and all that, where did you really develop, you've got to be pretty good at what you're doing to fish pro.
Yes.
So, and again, like your total, you told me upstairs, you started fishing in high school.
Yes.
A couple years in high school.
Yep.
4 years in college.
Yes.
And
3 years.
3 years in college. And now you're pro. So in a very short time, you had to pick up these techniques and all that.
Yes.
So where was your most fundamental learning curve? Where did that take place?
Yeah. So definitely Chattooga. You go there and if you don't know spotted bass, you will get your teeth kicked in by the Alex Princes, by the Mills, by all these guys that know spots. Yeah. So what I would do, I would go out there just on weekdays and just go and just test, have 20 baits I want to test, I want to try, I want to make, I want to do anything, and just go out and test and go out and just try things. And so I think that's the best thing to do, whether you're, linear to always try and stay ahead of that curve.
Right.
Because if you are doing what everyone else is doing, more than likely you're not going to be the one winning.
So let me ask you this. What's the secret? A lot of guys talk about these local tournaments. You mentioned Alex and Emil and all that. There are guys that consistently bring in 20 pounds.
Yes.
If they show up, they're going to bring in 20 pounds.
Yeah.
What are those guys doing? What are those guys? I mean, you have to compete against those guys.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about specifically.
Yeah.
How are they so consistent? And of course, then again, I imagine you as well. How do you maintain that consistency when fishing that way?
Yeah. So once again, it's 2 things. Time on the water is huge. You cannot beat it. Knowing, just going to see what the fish are doing, where they're set up, all that. So time on the water is number 1. Number 2 is once again, staying ahead of that curve, staying like right now, the big curve or the big bait is like the hover rigs and all that. You've got to be a step ahead of that because by the time that rolls through, now all the fish have seen it. So now you got to be on to something else. So it's just kind of staying ahead of, the common theme, if it's a shaky head's always going to catch fish,
right?
But then that's where your time on the water comes in. those little bitty things that you got to pick up on, the places, how they're set up, the bait, just kind of knowing what's going on that other people will miss.
Okay, well, tell us how to do that.
Yeah, I wish I could.
Tell us how to do that. Because like you said, you got to stay one thing ahead.
Yes.
So, at what point do you pick up? So just take the hover rig.
Yes.
And it got hot,
Yes.
But you said you got to stay one step ahead of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
How do you find as an angler that next thing?
Yeah. So we were kind of, my partner and I, Mitchell, up on Chateau. So we have just these days we go out, we'll make the craziest baits, make the weirdest stuff. So we were kind of onto that last year, I guess, and kind of did our deal with it last year. And now it's like something new. So it's just putting your time out there, coming up with these crazy ideas, writing them down, and just going and trying and testing them.
So when you say make your own baits, do you pour your own baits or anything like that? Are you talking about just getting something different and trying?
I'm talking about cutting the lips off a crankbait and gluing them on a swim bait or something. Like I don't pour
Really?
Yeah. I'm just for
you like
example,
to tinker and stuff
yes,
like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So you like to do a lot of bait mods and stuff.
Mhm.
And that's how you find the next thing.
Yes, yeah. Some things, most 99% of it won't work, but that 1% will make you a lot of money throughout the year too.
So did you use any of those type of mods in your tournaments last year?
Yes, specifically linear.
Is that something you can give up or?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay, well, what kind of? Well, give me as much juice as you can on that. Tell me a mod for late linear that you did.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess my number one bait, and day one ended up catching like a 6-pound, 12-ounce spot on it. Was the longay, the old bomber longay. They use it a lot for walleye fishing up north. I was up north in Saginaw this year, went through a Bass Pro, saw all these baits. I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. Because you don't really hear about it much on spotted bass lakes. That was a thing, many years ago.
Right.
So that wasn't a specific mod, but that was a bait that
you brought back an old bait.
Yes, exactly. That had already been past its prime. And now the fish aren't accustomed to it. You go out there and throw a fluke, you throw a topwater or something, they've seen a million of those.
Right.
So that was just something different. And for that week, or for those first 2 days specifically, they were just chewing the heck out of it. So it was just something different.
We've talked a lot about, either on air, off air, some of these baits that people don't use anymore. Like think about the jitterbug.
Right.
One of the best topwater baits ever made, still catches fish. Nobody throws like a jitterbug anymore.
Great night bait.
Great night bait. But go on a night tournament around here, nobody's got a jitterbug tied on.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, there are exceptions to the rule. Are you one of them?
I'm one of them.
You're one of them.
I throw a jitterbug and a black spinnerbait, 3/4 ounce.
Yeah, black spinnerbait I expect. But the jitterbug, not many people. You know what I'm saying? The old school Rapala, floating jerkbait that we all grew up on.
When I've got no wind at night, that's what I'm throwing.
The jitterbug?
Mhm.
There's your tip, guys. Well, that's a good tip. But you know what I'm saying? The banjo minnow is back. The helicopter is so. Oh, Tyler's here. Tyler's one of them guys I warned you about upstairs. No, Tyler's a good dude. Bomber Long A, Jeremiah says it's a classic striper plug too. Nobody else would have thought of that, which is like what you're saying.
Yes.
And so that puts some money in your pocket right there.
Exactly.
That right there. See, and that I find that interesting that you went back and did something like that. Because I promise you might have been the only person in that tournament throwing it.
Yes.
But you might have been the only person this year on that lake throwing it for spots.
Yeah.
So that's a bait that you brought back. What about a mod? Did you make any mods, or is that just kind of what you're talking about?
No, so we made some mods too. Not to get too specific, but we've been cutting off spinnerbait skirts and tying them on stuff that you wouldn't tie on spinnerbait skirts onto. Some swim baits, some jerk baits, things like that. Just a little something different is all it takes.
Skirt on a jerkbait.
Just an idea.
Ain't that something?
I don't have one of those.
No, I was getting there. I said, do you have? I like that. I like that. I had a question on up there that Michael Temples had. Is that the one you pulled? Yeah, right there. He wants to know, do you use live scope or active target or?
Yeah, Garmin.
You're a Garmin guy.
Yeah, big Garmin guy.
Now, have you ever? Now, I always have this saying about the younger generation growing up with that.
Yes.
Have you pretty much always fished forward facing sonar?
So no, not really. Up until I got it my first year of college,
Okay.
So you kind of, all this learning stuff was all, like I said, with your eyes, looking at these rock structures, looking at the bank, looking at the laydowns, how the contours, all that stuff. So that kind of gave me the best of both worlds too, learning how to fish regular stuff, being able to go down the bank and catch fish.
Yeah.
Plus now here's this new technology. So I've spent a ton of time with it, and that's how I caught probably 75% of my fish this year on.
Right.
But like, you've got to have both parts of it. You can't just be
and that's my thing is I think a lot of kids, especially high school kids now,
yes,
they don't have both parts of that.
yes, yeah,
They decide in high school they want to go join the bass club.
mm-hmm.
Daddy buys them a boat,
Yep.
as he should. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not knocking that.
Yeah.
Puts the best that he can afford on it, and lots of
Yes.
times it's a forward-facing sonar,
Mhm. Yeah.
and that's all those kids have grown up with.
Yeah.
So at least you had the experience growing up to be able to,
Mhm. Yeah.
tell that's a ditch, or I need to throw at this rocky
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
and how to approach it and everything.
For sure.
So I think that's a good one. So pull up Jeremiah's comment. Here's a mod. Use a file to cut a groove in the lower section of the line tie on a spook. Makes it walk easier and from a distance to catch those fish at long range when they're spooky. Sound like something you would do? Interesting.
That would be fun.
That would be an interesting thing. So young Harkins got the right idea. So that's a bass love to pull down skirts. Good idea. Putting it on other stuff. Stephen Ryan wants to know any tips or advice for kayak bass anglers.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I think of kayak fishing, I've done a ton of kayak fishing too. Specifically, Notley, I'm going to go find a river, and I'm going to go throw a frog, a wacky rig, something fun, up in the bushes.
I love the wacky rig.
Oh yeah.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, with kayak fishing, you're
yeah.
kind of limited in your range.
Yeah.
So that's where, a lot of the map study before you even get to the lake, give yourself plenty of options around that area.
Hit those high percentage areas.
Yeah.
Like that. Go up real quick. There was a comment on up from Chris Stubbs Angling right there. Pull that up, because he says there's a lot with a bunch of T's of baits that they use up north for walleye that crush spots down here too. I will say, I don't know if you know FCP Angling, Dana Smith. He's got a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Fishes Lake Lanier a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He uses, and he makes them, but he uses a walleye hair jig
Okay.
that he fished. I believe it's Oklahoma. It's where he's from. They caught walleyes and stuff.
Yeah.
And he has brought that over to Lanier, and he crushes fish on that jig. I mean, he throws other stuff too, but that is one of his bread and butters.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that you were up north,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, huh,
Yeah.
I bet that would work on Lanier. When I went to ICAST this year, I was seeing some saltwater baits that resembled, they were topwater baits, but they had a little more slope to them and stuff. And so I'm looking at that going, I bet a spot, spot on Lanier hit anything when it's aggressive enough. But I'm sitting there thinking, I bet they would just crush that.
Yeah.
So it is real interesting. What you got? Map study is key, Alex first. That's another thing.
Yes.
That when I talk about the high school anglers and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not down on them.
For sure.
But reading a old fashioned paper contour map, got them upstairs, is a lost art.
Yes.
Do you utilize them any at all anymore?
Absolutely. Yes.
Do you really?
Yes. Yeah. We've got, so once again, my partner, I'm Mitchell, all my team partner, we fish everything together. So we've got these, we made copies. I found an old Lanier paper map. So we made copies and copies of it and kept them in the boats when we come down here. And we were driving down the, lake with a big map like this, trying to see showing stuff that, even these newer maps, they don't have, the old road beds, the old, whatever.
Yeah, it'll say on these old maps, road bed, down bridge or, stuff like that. Anytime you guys got a question for this young man, Kevin or Tim, y'all make sure you jump in. I don't want to hog all the microphone time with this guy, but definitely jump in. But Chris Stubbs says, hair jigs are definitely one of them. And I do think there are a lot of baits that cross species.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially with spots.
Yes.
Maybe not so much with the largemouth, but definitely with spots. We have computers. Reading old contour maps is like complaining kids don't know cursive anymore. Like they don't need to know it. Tyler is that guy, man. I'm telling you. But listen, Tyler, though. If it hits the fan and say we get one of those electromagnetic pulses that knocks out everything, electronics, some kind of Armageddon kind of stuff like that, and you still want to go fishing, and your gas motor cranks, and you get out on that, you're going to have to know how to use the map. Okay, so it's just an art.
Yeah.
It's just an art to do that. I think it's kind of refreshing that a young guy uses maps.
Yeah.
You know,
And
nobody buys them anymore. But.
Yeah. I mean, at the professional level, you've got to use every little tip and key and thing that you can to, like I said, stay that one step
Do
ahead.
you study with any other anglers?
So we've got one I started working with at the end of the year. Richard Key is his name on the trail. So we've shared some info and all, but I like to keep that circle none to very small. You know, I don't want all these ideas bouncing around. You know, once we're in practice on a lake, I want to stay single tracked almost and do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And not be like, oh, you know, this guy said this or this guy said that. So I like to keep that circle very small.
I got you. Okay. I get it.
That
Absolutely.
gets you sidetracked.
Here's
You
a good
start listening to other people.
Yes. Yeah.
Got a good quote. What's that? Okay. Connor Hewitt wants to know, what rods are you throwing, and are you partnered with anyone?
Yes. So it is not announced yet, but I just partnered with ARC rods.
Hey,
yeah.
Good for you.
So looking forward to that one this year. As far as what I'm throwing the rods on, you know, finesse stuff. I've got several medium lights, like a 611, 610 for drop shot, spy bait, all that good stuff. That's I probably use a 7-1 medium spinning rod 75% of the time.
Yeah.
With everything, you know, I'll throw the longie on it, I'll throw top waters on it, I'll use little crankbaits with it, shadow wraps, things like that.
Do you own a bait caster?
I do own bait casters.
Do you use a bait caster any?
Yes, unfortunately. Yes.
Right. I'm a spin guy. I got them both, but I'd much rather fish with a spin rod right there. Mm-hmm. So let's jump into that. Have you kept up with that any at all?
With the
Milliken and Block It?
No, I don't. Really.
Okay, so so
I understand
you understand both sides.
Yes.
Do you agree with one side more than the other?
I mean, technology is going to come and go. You've got to get used to it or get left behind. That's how it works. That's not going to change. So I recommend don't worry about it. Turn off the YouTube, the drama screens, and just go and fish and use everything that you got.
Good answer.
Yes, it is.
It's good, but it is fun to watch them two bicker.
It is.
Listen,
I got a question for it.
Shoot.
Do you think that there really has a tiff between them, or it's more clickbait?
Yeah, so there is this theory.
Yeah.
Amongst some of the guys we know that they might not dislike each other as much as they're leading on to believe because this is how YouTube works. You need views to make money.
It is.
And that maybe just they're keeping it going. And even if they're not, they're keeping it going because it's driving views.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of a little conspiracy theory going on. Randy and Milliken are working in conjunction with each other to get views.
Clickbait.
Clickbait. Pull up Messi. What cadence for practice did you find helpful or non-helpful in the prior professional season? Now, maybe you understand that question a little bit better than I do. I assume cadence, she's talking about I guess say you're throwing a jerk bait and you figure it out, or and if I'm incorrect, Matthew, please correct me in your next comment right there. So
what cadence for practice? I guess as far as just breaking down the lake, first thing I'm going to go as fast as I can. I'm going to have the top, a buzzbait, a crankbait, whatever that may be, cover a lot of water really fast. And then if that's not working, then start to slow it down and pick things apart. And I don't know if that answers your question as far as cadence goes, but that's
cadence.
That might be what he's talking about. What's your favorite area of Lanier to fish during the winter?
Ooh, wintertime, south end. I mean, that's where I'll spend 75% of the year anyways.
Yeah.
6 Mile, young deer, all that stuff is good.
What are you looking for in the winter on Lanier?
Yeah. So wintertime, a couple things. I love schooling fish. They're always going to school all year round. It's not going to be on top. It's going to be underwater. So I love chasing schooling fish. So as far as where that occurs at, anywhere that they can really push bait up against. Wintertime, obviously ditches are great places. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But you also need to look beyond those ditches too, because I'm sure every single ditch on Lanier has been fished 100 times this winter already.
Sure.
So that's where those little things come in, the little breaks, the little saddles in between humps, things like that aren't as fished, but that still will hold those schools of fish.
Almost kind of similar to what you're talking about with your baits.
Yes.
Staying one step ahead of what
Exactly.
everybody else is not doing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask the obvious question. How are you targeting these schooling fish?
Yeah.
With as much information as you can get
yeah.
us.
So a really cool bait that just came out, not sponsored, not anything, by Berkeley, but they just came out with their little finisher bait. So it's an awesome little sinking bait, almost like a sinking jerk bait, spy bait type.
Was that
deal.
what Jordan Lee was throwing when he was up here in his video? Have you seen Jordan Lee's video?
I have? Yeah.
Is that the
He's
bait?
throwing the switch, and I
Okay,
don't,
so it's not the
yeah.
same one.
But I mean, anything like that. I love a fast sinking bait. Get down there quick. Put your bait in front of as many fish as you can. But the cool thing about Lanier, especially this winter, it seems, is a lot of these biggest fish have stayed kind of shallower.
They have this year.
So that's been different this time of year. So that was kind of.
What do you think's caused that? You think the lake being so low has have anything to do with that, or?
Man,
I
I
think
don't-
that's happening on a lot of lakes right now.
yes,
Staying shallow.
yeah,
They are.
definitely.
It's throwing people for a loop for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, but yeah, that,
Especially your bigger fish.
you know, and that's been the
Yes.
conversation a lot this winter is, you know, sometimes they're in the dirt, or if they're in the 20 foot and up, you know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
always
yeah.
going to be deep fish.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, they're
yeah,
always going to be,
yeah.
but a lot of your winning tournaments, especially on the local level, has been coming shallow.
5 feet or less.
Relatively
Mhm.
shallow. I know that when we fished a couple Sundays ago on Lanier, we caught them all. Everybody was throwing jigs and stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we were all catching them in basically 15 foot and up.
Mhm. Yeah.
There was, you know, and we actually even tried to spoon fish that day, and
Mhm.
they just weren't.
Mm-mm.
They weren't hitting it. And Ryan has made the comment several times that, and it might have changed since he said it, but earlier the big fish, the winning weights
Mhm.
were not in the ditches yet. They
Yes.
hadn't moved. You know, they
Yeah.
weren't in ditches like everybody thinks. They were being caught shallow.
Yeah.
What would be your second option if you couldn't throw that little? What you said? They called it a finisher. What
Yeah, they have a finisher, switch, finisher, spoons, swim baits. Yeah, I'll throw a shaky head quite a bit.
Now, when you're chasing these schools, though, what's your technique in chasing? I mean, what are you doing? You see them? Are you following them with your trolling motor, or are you just like going spot to spot looking for baiting those fish?
So a couple things. There's got to be bait there. You know, I'm gonna be focused on those herring eaters. Those are gonna be some of your fattest fish. Now this is the deep fish. This is not those shallow ones. So as far as just focusing on the deep fish, I'm going to be finding those. A lot of your biggest fish aren't really in your biggest schools necessarily.
Right.
Those schools of 5 to 6 are typically some of your bigger fish.
Okay.
So just like I said, trolling around on high, hitting 75 spots a day, just trying to figure
So
out.
you're a running gunner.
Yes. Yeah,
You're
for sure.
If and guys, hey, there's several questions I'm going to get to, but I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's say you know a brush pile
Mhm.
is there. I hear a lot of guys. They run up, they drop it, they scan it. It's not what I want. And
Yep.
leave. Are you one of those guys?
Absolutely.
What are you looking for? What tells you that that's not the spot?
Yeah. So mainly just how they're set up. If you're summertime brush pile fishing or fall or whenever, if they're kind of compressed into that brush pile, they've either been fished, they've been ran over, they've been something. I'm gone. If they are suspended up there, looks like they're ready to eat and feed, I will make 3 or 4 casts. And after you get their attention, if they don't bite it, you're gone.
So you don't waste a lot of time.
No, like 5 minutes, you shouldn't need any more than that.
Do you come back to them later?
Yes, I will rotate places for sure.
How much time do you give between rotations?
I usually like an hour. Now it
Okay.
depends how many spots. 75 spots, I'll make a rotation in the morning and then the evening kind of thing.
Okay.
But if it's like a high percentage area, I will make that rotation usually hourly.
And is this something that you kind of figure out too when you're pre-fishing on all these different lakes? You hit your high percentage spots. How do you go about breaking down a new lake?
Yeah. So 2-part question. As
Yeah,
far
it
as
is.
Lanier and Chateau,
Yeah.
I'm gonna usually I'm gonna hit it once in practice. I may not even throw a bait over it. I'm gonna see how they're set up and go on. I don't want to burn those fish. You're not gonna burn all the fish, but they will get used to seeing a bait.
Mhm.
So as far as practice wise on the Chatougs, on the Laniers, things like that, I'm just looking, where are there 10 to 20 fish set up right? I'm
Okay.
gonna mark it and go on. And then your best spots will change each and every day. Like where I caught that 612 in the NPFL on Lanier this year, I didn't catch another fish there the other 2 days. So your best spot's going to, your best spots are going to change on the daily. That's why I run so many places, is to figure out, hey, where are those 8 to 10 high percentage places for that day?
Okay.
Is that what this question, he was asking about a 675 that you caught?
Yeah. Where did you catch the 6, 7, 5, and on what?
Is that the fish you just referenced? I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if you can answer that question.
Yeah. It was on Lanier.
There you go, buddy. There you go.
No, I mean, it's not a secret spot whatsoever. I'm sure 100.
What'd you catch it on?
The long gay.
The long A. So
A,
that
yeah.
came up top.
But
order.
once again, like I said, even the long A, it worked the first 2 days wonderfully. They would not bite it the third day. So you've got to be able to adapt and have other options.
Did you stay on top the third day, or did you just try to go finesse underneath?
No, I tried. I was gonna live by hero or zero all week. The first 2 days it worked great.
Yeah.
The third day it burned me because I was too stubborn to change, but I knew going into it that was a way to win that tournament.
Yeah.
So I was going to stick with it whether it worked or not.
And you finished what in that tournament?
Second.
How much did you lose by?
3 pounds, 4 pounds or something.
So at any given time, you could have that a fish or two.
Yes,
would have
yeah,
made it there.
yeah.
So there was a question going up because I know I missed some questions. What is the best lure for bank fishing? Now let's say you're on Lake Lanier, on Allatoona or Chattooga.
Yeah.
No boat. Want to catch some bass.
Yep.
Artificial.
Mhm.
Because of course everybody knows shiners or bluegill or something would best.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a bait, and let's say right now,
Okay.
because it is the winter.
Yeah.
What would you be looking for? Like what type of bank, and
Yeah.
what would you be throwing?
So I will have 2 rods on the deck bank fishing. Summertime, you add a third, and it's a wacky rig. You cannot beat a wacky rig.
Cannot beat it.
No.
Cannot beat it.
Wintertime, I will have a swim bait, usually like a 3-inch, whatever that may be.
Like a Kitech style bait?
Yes. 1/8 ounce head on it. And once again, kind of looking for those transitions to that steeper, chunkier rock would be ideal.
Yeah.
And even the bags, like I said, the shallow parts of some of these ditches and all, where it kind of necks down has been good.
Yeah. So when you talk about throwing a Kitech on, I assume like a ball head jig.
Yep.
Do you like throwing underspins, or you pretty much ball head jig? Because I'm a ball head jig. I'll throw an underspin every so often,
Yes.
but I prefer the ball head jig.
Yes.
Just the bait itself.
Yeah. No, I will throw both. But usually a ball head jig. If the water's got a little bit of color to it, I love the underspin, just to give it a little something extra. But usually as clear these waters is, I just usually throw a regular ball head.
That's
What pound
good.
test line on that 8 ounce?
8
pound.
8 pound. Yep.
8 pound.
Yep.
So you like going light?
Yes. Yeah. Occasionally I'll throw a 10.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's been days on Chattooga even they will not bite 10 pound, but they'll bite 8. Like, it's the craziest thing, and I would never have thought it unless I'd seen it myself.
Right.
But that does make a difference.
Have you ever thrown 6 pound on anything?
I have. I don't like it because it gets kind of scary.
Yeah. I asked that because we had a conversation in the shop yesterday with a young man coming in. He was asking about line, and somebody told him on his drop shots he needed to use 6 pound. And I said, well, that's kind of getting into that marginal area.
Yes.
You better have your drag really light.
Yes.
You're going to hear the buzz of your reel a lot if
Yes.
you're using that. With a run and gun method on a herring lake, what would make you slow down and methodically fish? That's a good question.
It is a good question. Not being stubborn would be a good start, because I love fishing fast.
Yeah.
I love fishing slow, fast. If that makes sense. I love really picking it apart, but really fast too. So as far as slowing down on a herring lake, wintertime you can a little bit when there's a bigger group of fish there. One cast isn't going to be enough for all the fish.
Yeah.
If they're really spread out, I will really slow down and pick each fish apart. Make a lot of casts in that area.
But it's got to have the perfect setup for you. You got to see something on your
Yes.
sonar to say, okay, slow down.
Yes. And if they are being finicky, even if you don't have sonar and don't have any of that, if you are not getting bit, slow down, crawl.
The old Bill Payne. You know Bill Payne?
I do not. No.
Bill Payne is he is one of the best guides in North Georgia, if not the best.
Fishes the way he talks.
He he
Mhm.
talks real slow. He's been on the show.
Yes.
He is a fantastic individual.
Yep.
But his thing is, if you think you're fishing slow, slow
Fish
down.
slower.
Yeah. So it's a Bill Payne. Payneism. I don't know how you want to do that, but you need to hook up with him.
Yeah,
To learn
that'd be cool.
to some. He's fantastic. What's the next question we got for this young man? Given his NPFL tournament winnings, this is a good question. Are you in the red or the black? So did you make a profit last year?
Yes, I did. Surprisingly.
Surprising. Now you said you went in with no sponsors to start, or did you have some sponsors to start?
So I had some sponsors to start. 75% of it I worked for. I bought the boat, I bought the rods, the bait, the gas to get there, the hotels, all that I got. I did have a little help. Blairsville Chamber of Commerce has been extremely helpful.
That's good.
Yeah. Their primary Heaven's Harvest, Cameo Fencing, all these guys have been great. But at the same time, it costs $40,000 to fish a year, and that's on the lower side.
Yeah, that's what the NPFL is, right?
It's 32 plus. I mean, you got gas. Hotels,
so about 40,000 is
Yeah.
what you've got to cover.
Yes, and like I said, that's on the low side. A lot of the guys will spend a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But this is coming out of my pocket, so you
Yeah.
have to be very economical with what you've got.
Yeah, that's good. But you did end up making a profit for the year.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess if you finished second in AOY, and
I would hope so.
Yeah, but in 28th being your work, how many times did you finish out of the money?
The first two.
The first two,
Yep.
and then you were in the money the rest of the year.
Yes. Yep.
That is pretty doggone
Yeah, awesome.
consistent. That's a hell of an accomplishment.
I was as surprised as you were.
I'm not surprised. Listen now, I'm not surprised, but I think that's impressive.
Yeah.
Now, a personal question.
Okay.
What kind of bow, what color, and what motor do you run?
Okay, so I bought a
What color?
I want to know what I'm looking for.
Okay,
Oh, what you looking for? Okay, I got you. Okay, I got you.
okay.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
The older, wiser guys got a good idea. going on here.
What's up, Tracy
Good
Coker?
idea. So I've got a Skeeter ZX 200, 200 Yamaha on the back. I said nothing fancy, nothing big, best or anything. I've got 3 graphs, 2 are mapping, 1's live scope. So I said nothing crazy.
Your boat's white though, is it not?
It's black and green underneath. It does have a white wrap as of this week. Next week, it'll have a blue and black wrap.
Okay.
Looking
Actually
forward
changing
to
it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Changing it up a little bit. That's good. Real quick, before I get to the next question, actually, as you go ahead and pull up the next question, but I want to ask you this.
Mhm.
I want to give you at least the opportunity to shout out your sponsors.
Yeah, for sure.
That way, I want to make sure they get
Absolutely.
mentioned. So who all sponsors you?
Yeah, so like I said, Blairsville Chamber of Commerce has been huge. Miss Crystal up there at the chamber, she's jumped on board from day one. They've been awesome. I said, go visit Blairsville. It is a prettiest little town ever. Cameo Fencing, Heaven's Harvest, both ran by Clayton up there in Blairsville. He's such an awesome guy. So he was actually my high school partner's friend, coworker.
Right.
So he kind of helped me along. Then a numerous little ones: BPM Home Watch, Daily Dumpsters, Sushi Shack this year. Love
Shack.
sushi.
Dude, I love
Yes.
this.
That's where I went for dinner.
I
Yes.
love sushi.
That's what he had tonight.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
there is not a well. Listen, I'll even eat convenience store sushi. I love sushi. Yeah. What are you shaking your head for over there? Listen, if I get sick, I get sick. It tasted good going down.
You're a brave man.
I eat cow brains, dude. I mean, I'll eat that. I'll eat.
Yeah.
I'll eat convenient. I love
Yeah.
sushi.
Oh yeah.
My family doesn't like it, but I do. Well, one daughter does. Most of them are like, ah. What changes do you make on a lake with a variety of smallmouth, largemouth, some spots? So, let's take a lake that has all three, and then maybe if you're going from one lake to another, what
Yeah.
changes do you make?
Yeah, for sure. So number one, I'm going to look at previous tournament results. What is it taking? Is it taking the largemouth? Is it taking 4 spots and a kicker largemouth? What do I need to be looking for? And what kind of weights? If it's taking 20 pounds to win and I'm catching 2 3/4 pounders, that's not going to do me any good.
Right.
So definitely previous history on the lake is huge. So when I'm looking for that mixture, every lake, the bass are going to act different. They're going to fish differently on Chattooga and Lanier. They're pretty close, but they're going to still fish differently.
There are some minute differences
Yes.
and all that.
And
yeah.
you start going to Florida, Michigan, Texas, all these places, you're learning on the fly a lot. So you've got to be open-minded, have to be versatile. And really, like I said, the map study going into it is huge. So
I'm so glad he said that. Nobody
Yeah.
does that anymore. Nobody talks about
Mhm.
maps.
Yeah, that is maybe the most important part of preparation is the map study.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, and I will say this: we talked about it upstairs with the NPFL and a lot of the pro tours. Of course, there are limits and rules against getting certain information.
Yes.
So you have to do a lot of this study work on your own because you're not allowed to call and say,
Yes.
your buddy Joe on Saginaw,
Yeah.
hey, what are they biting?
Oh, yeah.
That's illegal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's illegal. You get DQ'd for that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you actually have to put in some brain work going into that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's some kind of a misconception with pros. You don't get to buy all these waypoints on these spots and go catch them. You've got to figure it out on your own. And so like with me,
Or you're supposed to.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Some guys,
The honest ones, that's what they do.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not calling out any names. I'm
yeah.
not saying that. I'm not accusing anybody.
Yeah.
There's just always one bad apple in all
There
of them.
is. Yeah. And like I said beforehand, I don't want all this outside information anyways, because that's going to lead you in 15 different directions.
Yeah.
Right.
And so being
Yeah.
able to get there, brand new body of water, you really pick up on the little things that you would miss.
Yeah.
So that study and that time with your maps, with your Google, is definitely helpful.
You have to stop somebody from volunteering information to you. Do you
Yes.
not?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
He can't
Yeah.
be fishing along and somebody say they caught fish over here.
Mhm.
He's got to stop them.
He has to.
Yes.
Now, is that for the entire season or is there like a limit before tournament?
No. So that's starting January 1.
So like,
for the
as
whole
of
year.
right now, you can't get a bit of information
Correct.
looking for it.
Yes.
Now, granted, if you hear something, that's one thing, but you cannot go looking for it.
Correct. Yeah. And you can't act upon,
Right.
anything either.
But like
yeah.
YouTube stuff like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's totally
Publicly
fine.
available information is good.
Yeah,
Yes.
but from an individual or something,
Correct.
that is off.
Correct.
I didn't hear you mention Google Earth. I know you look at the map. You use
Yes.
Google Earth.
That is part of it. Yes. I will have my Navionics. I will have my Google Earth right there side by side. And mess with the dates. The Google Earth is awesome. You can bring
Right.
water levels up and down. So I'll bring them as low as possible, and then on my Navionics go, hey, here's a rock outcrop. Hey, here's a tree in the water. Here's whatever it may be, and just kind of sync the two up.
He don't do that on date night, does he? Huh? Well,
How do you sync them up?
So I just do it the old fashioned ways,
You just look where you think
manual
it's
and manual. Yes.
manual.
There are ways now that you can layer the two and do it. I'm not that techie with things,
Gotcha.
so I would just.
Let's see. Do you keep a log?
Yes, I do. So with all my previous events, so I have them dating back to the first BFL I fished 3 years ago on Lanier. I finished 96th, I think it was, out of 220. Terrible finish. That was first time ever on Lanier, I think. So finished. So I have a log from then now. So every single tournament I fish, I will go paste the conditions, water temp, water levels, water clarity, how many boats, where it was won, how it was won, what I saw, what changed from practice to. So I have, a good paragraph of stuff.
So you are very detail oriented.
Yes. Yes.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's something not a lot of people do. And we got a buddy, Tim Hancock, that comes on, and he's kept a log since the 80s.
Yeah.
And it is just like, and I've actually seen the books, I mean, when he's been on, and just like, and I'm like, I can't remember where I caught him last week. This guy can go back a decade.
Are you looking at past results, just big circuit tournaments, or do you do local tournaments, or both? Or?
Anything that I can find. Anything. Your big circuit tournaments, on average, take a little lower than your local tournaments.
No, but are you saying, does he keep a log, or are you saying, what he's looking?
When he's researching.
Researching.
Yes,
Okay.
a lot of times
Yeah.
on the local tournaments, I caught them on spinnerbait when they really didn't catch them on spinnerbait.
Yeah. So I don't really care what they caught them on. I'm just looking for A, weights, and B, what species.
Okay.
Sometimes you get the area that's predominantly one in. So that can be helpful. You get a lake like Saginaw Bay, Huron. It's impossible to break down in 2 months, let alone 3 days. So kind of getting that area.
The areas.
Yes. So I section a lake off in 3 places for 3 days of practice. So I take Eufaula, Oklahoma, for example, this year. Massive lake. So I really had to trim a lot of it off. And I was like, okay, I'm going to spend my 3 days here, here, and here. All relatively close where I'm not running 50 miles apart.
Right.
And I ended up just catching them in one area. And I only spent a day in that area. So that's where you really have to practice in the tournament as well.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. All right. So let's just say right now, take Lanier.
Okay.
Take Lanier.
Yep.
You're a finesse guy. Do you prefer, let's talk ditch fishing for a little bit.
Okay.
Do you do a lot of ditch fishing?
I do. Yeah.
What's your techniques on ditch fishing right now?
Same thing. So I'll throw, quarter ounce swim bait. I'll bump up to a half. If they're really deep, like I said, this year, they've not really, the biggest fish have not pushed out that deep.
Right.
So that's definitely been different. Previous years, I'm going to go throw your quarter ounce, your 1/8 ounce, your half ounce swim baits out in the ditches. Shaky head. Those are kind of my top 2 baits out there, like everybody. But like I said, I like to add some flair to some baits too, and get out there.
So you'll still do some experimenting.
Oh
even
absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the biggest mistake you made this past year on the NPFL? And at what lake? Something that just you can't get it out of your mind.
Yeah. Biggest mistake. I mean, each event. So I finished in the top 3 times this year.
Yeah.
Each event I had one day that just killed me. Santee made a bad decision. It was more or less not a bad decision. It's just I didn't have anything to fall back onto because weather came in.
Yeah.
3rd day got canceled, moved to Sunday. And so at that point, all my stuff had kind of blown out. So I didn't have a lot. I didn't have any history.
You'd have a plan B or nothing like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that cost me there. Eufaula, the 2nd day was kind of what killed me. I only had 12 pounds. But I was happy to have that then. What really killed me was a decision on one particular place. There's a school of fish. I pulled up there first thing that morning and jumped like a 5-pounder off, which a 5-pounder there is massive because I had 39.9 for 3 days and tied for first with Louis Fernandez and lost that tiebreaker.
What was the tiebreaker? Big fish?
Biggest bag of the week. So
biggest bag of the week. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So he had that.
There it is.
86. Where do you prefer to fish Lanier? Oh no, where do you prefer to fish? Lanier or Chattooga?
Chattooga. Because it's about an hour closer.
Yeah.
That's
the main reason. Take the travel out of it.
Yeah, travel out Lanier. Simply because your biggest tournaments, your best competitors are going to be on Lanier. So if you want to be good, you've got to go where they're at.
Yeah.
So definitely.
And I know Chattooga's got a good population of spots and largemouth. Got a few smallmouth still in there. They're unicorn fish.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, there's been 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah, you catch them every once in a while. Yeah. But Lanier is it's the straw that stirs the drink.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is
It is.
How would you rank Lanier compared to all the other lakes you fished on the NPFL?
Probably it was probably second. Saginaw was it unreal. If you've never made a trip up north fishing, it'll make you never want to come back down here and fish again. Even Lanier. It's crazy.
That good. The smallmouth fishing?
Yeah, smallmouth, largemouth, especially.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because when people say Saginaw, we hear a lot about smallmouth. Everybody, you go up there, smallmouth. But it has some good largemouth in it.
I finished 7th in that event and I weighed in 15 largemouth.
Really?
I did, yeah. Which I was shocked, but it was so dumb. You could go along these grass edges and pick out the fish you want to catch. Flip over there, they'll eat it. It doesn't matter.
Really?
They've never seen a bait before.
Just pick it out. That'll work.
Yeah,
you literally go. I don't like
that
her.
One's bigger. And you go and it catch.
What were you flipping in there on them?
Wacky rig, swim jig.
I like this kid more and more, man. You know how I am with the wacky. Listen, I fish a wacky year round.
I love it.
I'll throw a weightless wacky right now under a dock.
On a spinning rod then too?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there any other way to throw one? You throw a wacky on a bait caster?
Yeah, I'll throw a wacky.
Do you?
Yeah.
No, I'm a spinning rod dude. And I mean, seriously, I'll go to a dock right now.
Yeah.
30 foot underneath it, knowing that there's and the forward facing sonar says there's a few fish in there,
Yeah.
I will skip that thing under there and I'll eat a sandwich and wait
Oh,
for
yeah.
that joke
Oh,
to
yeah.
go. They will hit it.
They will. They will.
Nobody believes me. That's a summertime thing.
No, they will
Oh,
gladly eat
they
it in the
will
wintertime.
kill a wacky.
Mhm.
Nobody.
I've got a rod that's just dedicated to wacky. That's what that rod's
Oh,
used
yeah.
for.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah. We had a young kid come in. He's going to fish in our electric club. He ain't been
Yeah.
fishing long, and I was talking to him, and he was asking me, "What rods do you keep?"
Mhm.
And this would go to your question because
Yeah.
I simplified. I used to have the 20
Mhm.
rods, but in the
Yeah.
electric boats, you don't have as much room. I'm going with basically 4 or 5 rods, but one
Yeah.
of them will always be a wacky.
Yes.
Always. So in a tournament, how many rods are you carrying and what do they have on there? And are you still awake over there? We haven't bored you to death yet?
Nah, not quite.
You need to keep her, dude.
Yeah, she's stuck around 5 years.
She's
maybe
put up with
maybe
you.
a little longer.
She goes to a podcast with you and listens to you
Yeah.
talk about fishing. You've done well.
It's not bad.
You've done
Not
well.
bad.
You got a good gig going on right there. Well, I appreciate your patience with him. Thank you for letting him come tonight. Huh? We know how,
Yeah,
hey, listen, we know who the boss is. I've been married 30 years. He's been married 45. We know who the boss is. How many rods do you have in your boat on a given tournament?
So
And then part 2 of that question is how
Yes.
many do you actually use?
okay. So in the boat, I will have 15 to 20 rods.
Yeah.
On the deck, if I've got more than 3 or 4, you probably don't know what's going on exactly.
Right.
I like to have myself dialed in, know what I'm going to do. Obviously have 1 or 2 alternatives, but wintertime especially, I really simplify it. I will use 2 baits pretty much, on a given tournament day.
Mhm.
I'll have, like I said, a crankbait or an A-rig or something, extra. I may make 5 casts with it all day, but it'll be there.
Right.
But yeah, 5 or less.
If you have one bait to fish for the rest of your life with, what would it be?
Drop shot.
Drop shot.
Drop shot.
Interesting.
It is, yeah.
That's not what I expected.
No.
Well, you are a finesse guy.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You haven't mentioned drop shot all night.
No. So wintertime, I hate throwing it. I won't throw one in the winter.
Okay.
Outside of winter, I will have it on the deck the rest of the year.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And do you cast it or you vertical?
Cast.
You're casting
yeah,
at it.
yeah.
I know a lot of guys will only use it vertically. They won't cast it.
Mm.
I tell them like you're wasting it. You can catch some fish on a drop shot.
Oh yeah.
I've seen guys catch bedfish on a drop shot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people don't think about it. They want
Mhm.
to throw something in there. And granted, it is easier to throw like a white jig or something.
It
with a
is.
white
Yeah.
tail and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But when those fish are really
Mhm.
really finicky,
Yeah.
you won't hit that.
Yeah.
They've seen it all.
Mhm.
I've seen guys pitch a drop shot in and just basically let it hover over that bed.
Yes. Yeah.
And eventually,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
that girl's gonna get mad. She's gonna
Mhm.
take it out of there.
Yeah.
So
My biggest bag all year came on Santee Cooper, 22, almost 23 pounds, all on a drop shot.
there you go,
So-
surf dad. Hell yes, drop shot for sure. Dang, I love it. Yeah.
We
And
made
you know what?
Farmer sick.
Do what? And the rest up, look at Farmer.
Look, Farmer.
Farmer.
You said drop shot. He fell out of his chair.
Do you know Jonathan? Jonathan Farmer?
Oh, I did. I've heard of him. I never met him. I know he's a big Notley.
He likes
he the
Notley.
Notley
He
guy?
took me up to
Yeah,
Notley.
yeah.
He's like 6'4" of just teddy bear. Though. He's a
Oh.
big dude, but he's soft. Man.
Oh yeah.
He's soft. He's gonna come in the store tomorrow and say, "Oh, he's soft." Yeah. Good dude, heck of a fisherman. But he
Oh, yeah.
actually took me to Notley for the first time,
Okay.
and never been on it before. And I seen what Notley can do that day. And I went up with Kaz Anderson on there one day
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that. So it's a great lake. Doesn't get a lot of attention, which you probably like. You
Yes,
keep some of the
absolutely.
boats off of it. But
Yeah.
there's been in the past. I know that when I did the podcast with
Mhm.
O'Neill Williams, who just retired. Congratulations on your retirement from 40 years in radio. He mentioned a tournament on Notley back in the late 70s or
Mhm.
80s where it took 45 pounds to win. All largemouth, 5 fish, 45 pounds to
Mm.
win a tournament
Wow.
on
My
Notley.
gosh.
Yeah. I know about
Could
8
you imagine that?
about 8 years ago, it took 29 something, almost 30 pounds to win one.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and now it's got the bluebacks in there. So
It does,
it's got the
yeah.
spots in there and you can
Yes,
fish
yeah.
offshore. You can do all the other stuff. But Notley does have some very good largemouth
Oh, yeah,
fishing.
yeah.
Now, how's the largemouth on Chattooga?
It's hit or miss.
Is it kind of like Lanier? They're there.
It is, yeah. You're gonna have guys every tournament. Someone's gonna bring in a largemouth or two and be like, "Oh, wow,"
Yeah.
But on your average, you're not going to have the whole field bringing in it.
Clint Bartlett fishing. Shh, about Notley, that's a gem. I think, you know what though? I think Notley. I think a lot of people know about Notley, but I think the lure of Chattooga and Carter's Lake and even Blue Ridge guys still trying to catch smallmouth. I think people know them for that. And Notley's kind of like it's small.
It is,
and not a lot, and they draw it way down like all of them. It turns into nothing during the winter time. As many times as I made that trip to Young Harris driving over, it's like one time it's got water right there at the highway, the next time it's a creek, you know. So, but the thing about Georgia's, and I guess too, you being from North Georgia, we got so many good lakes.
Here. Yeah, we do.
And people just, we're actually pretty blessed,
absolutely,
especially if you like spots, like Highland reservoirs and all that. I meant to ask you, when you were at Saginaw, did you use one of them floggers?
No, I did not.
Did you see guys using them on their boats?
I don't. We were there.
You weren't
July,
there during the bad. So
I don't.
Would you use a flogger?
Would I would use anything that I can possibly use to catch a bass.
First time I saw that, it looked like one of the traffic cones off the side of a boat. I was like, what is that guy?
I thought they'd picked up some sort of buoy marker and tucked it around in their boat.
Absolutely like that. So with your going pro from year 1 to year 2, you just signed with ARC.
Yes.
You said that. Are you starting to attract more sponsors, and are you going into this year with like a different mindset than year 1? I mean, I'm sure you have to.
Yes.
And now you're not some unknown 22-year-old kid that nobody knows about. Now you're a name in that tournament.
Yeah. So kind of my goals, I guess, for this year. Last year was to survive. Yeah. This year would be to thrive a little more.
You thrived pretty good, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being serious,
I'm not
blowing
bad,
smoke up your butt, but you finished second in the Angler of the Year.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
His goal is to win every one.
His goal is to win every one. Absolutely. I get that. So, I mean, I think how about this? Has it become more of a business this year?
Yes. And that is one part of it I don't care about. I would love to just go out there and just fish, but now you've got the sponsor entitlements, you've got the marketing, the things that you have to do. So I'm a novice at all this. So I'm trying to learn that as well as still stay minded with fishing.
So just so guys might have an idea, you sign with ARC. I know a lot of companies have social media requirements and stuff like that. Yeah. Kind of in a general broad painted brush, what kind of things are you going to have to do for ARC?
So I guess in theory, their contract's a little more loose.
Okay.
So still the social media posts, the once a week, the factory visits, the dealership visits, all that stuff is still there.
Yeah.
But with them, you kind of get what you put in to them. So you help them out, they'll help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way it should work.
Yeah.
But I don't think guys understand, like you said, factory visits.
Yes.
A lot of guys think, okay, yes, on the social media post, but there's still a lot more. If ARC called you up tomorrow and said, hey, we need you at this show.
Yes.
You would have. I mean, you might not have to go, but you would be encouraged to go.
Yes, for sure.
And to rep the brand and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all that outside noise that you're talking about that you're not used to.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I was alluding to. That now you've got all of this you've got to deal with, as opposed to last year you just show up and you
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a different mindset for sure. Because last year it was strictly catching the fish, cash a check, survive, move to the next one. Because I had to fund the year. I said, most of this is out of my pocket. So you've got to be able to cash those checks.
Where do you work?
So I work with my dad, building houses, construction.
Okay. All right. So you're in the construction industry. Okay. And that helps a little bit too.
It does.
Because now you got the free time.
Exactly. Yes. He is tremendously behind everything I do, supportive. If I need to take off a day to go fish, take off a day. He doesn't care.
That helps.
He doesn't get paid.
Huh?
He didn't get paid.
No, I don't get paid, but
but he's making his money fishing.
Yeah, I know.
He's making his money fishing.
The shows that he goes to, though, it opens up other doors for you as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Exposure.
For sure. Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yes. I mean, you've got to have all parts of it. You got to be a very, very well-rounded in not only the business side, in the fishing side, in the marketing, the connections.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot more going into it this year than there was last year.
What you got going for you, and it's the big switch in fishing is on the industry is where, and we've heard it talked about a lot here lately with the sponsorships and all that. The way that used to do it as opposed to now, a lot more of the companies are putting their money more into the people that got good social media
Yes.
and do those things,
Mhm.
because without it, it's not worth
There's-
their money anymore.
Yes.
That's why YouTube has blowed up with a lot of that stuff. But
Yeah.
but being 22, you're young, good looking kid,
Appreciate it.
Is he pleasant on the eyes? Do you think he's pleasant on the eyes a little bit? I get that, Okay, just be honest.
I fish. I mean,
we're
we're limited.
But what a lot of people don't think too is you've got to be able to speak
Yes.
too at events and stuff. You've got to be able to converse with customers or with fans and stuff like that. How are you learning how to deal with that?
Yeah. So when I was high school, very shy kid. Yeah, I was the quiet one.
Right.
But now, like you said, you've got to learn and adapt to all this. So some of my favorite things to do on the NPFL that they allow us to do is go speak at the schools, do the outreaches.
Yeah, they do that. They're
yes,
big on that.
Yes,
Very
that
big
is
on that.
tremendously. That is the best thing ever. So I love. So that's probably my biggest goal in fishing is if you are just there for the fish, you're missing the whole point of fishing. You're there to make an impact. You're there to help those kids, to help the little me's that are 10, 15 years old wanting to pursue a career in something.
Yeah.
So that is why you were fishing. If it's fishing for money, if you're fishing for fame, if you're fishing for any of that, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's to help further that next generation, to help guys and leave an impact.
That's big words for a 22-year-old kid, though. That's good, though. So, I mean, at least you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I go to some of these shows like iCast and stuff, and you do notice that some pros are a lot more approachable than others.
Yes. Yeah.
And the ones that you remember
Mm-hmm.
as whether we go down there as a store or for the TV show or whatever.
Yes.
When we come back and we talk about the stories and the people we met, it's always those that are a little bit more approachable, the ones that make that connection with you.
Yes.
I always talk about Bill Dance calling me by my name, and he probably didn't remember me once he left, but at least at the time, it's those little bitty details and all that.
Sure.
Who was the first angler on the NPFL that, I'm not going to say took you under your wing, but maybe gave you some advice about any of that?
Yeah. Man.
Or do you have one that's pretty well with you?
I guess the one that sticks out the most is Daniel McGeehee. He fished this year. The most ecstatic person you will ever meet. You will not outtalk him. You will not have more energy than he is. He runs on the equivalent of 15 Red Bulls every day, all day.
Okay.
So he was
high energy.
Yes. He's an awesome guy. I love him to death. So at Pickwick, the first event, he came right down to me, didn't know me, didn't do anything. He's like, "Hey, you want me to get your truck and help you pull a trailer up?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So that from then on, we roomed all year together. So he kind of, from that marketing, from the talking standpoint, he was massive in influencing that.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you, what's your long-term goals with your pro career?
Yeah. Really?
I mean, if the NPFL grows, of course you can always stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm day by day on this. Wherever God's calling and whatever his path is, I will gladly go. It may not even be fishing. I don't know.
Right.
So you have to be open to that change. Because you fight against that, then
Oh yes.
things, yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyways, so I would love to stay with the NPFL, love to see it grow.
Right.
But once again, you've got to go to wherever that impact is made. So if that's, fishing, but doing more of these outreach events, if that's, I kind of use this as that platform to reach those kids, reach those people that you wouldn't reach while still enjoying and competing at the highest level that I can.
Yeah.
So to continue to do that, no matter what organization or where at, I would love to do. So I would love for it to be NPFL, but if other doors open, then I'll gladly go.
Well, I think the NPFL is finally, I think they've worked out some of the kinks.
Yes, for sure.
They've worked out the kinks, and it's being run pretty well right now. And it's got some good guys that are involved with it and all that. And I actually think it'll grow.
Yes.
I mean, you hear it and think about it now, like, I know they had their situation, in the past, but now you don't hear their name in all the situation. It's ML, the other ones are dealing with all these problems now. And the NPFL is just kicking them right along.
Yeah.
How many anglers are going to be in it this year?
126.
126.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So
Is it capped?
It is. It's capped at 130. So they probably could have filled it very easily, but
What are the
You don't-
qualifications too for that?
endure an hour-long phone call with either Brad or Paul.
yeah,
So they will really
you get vetted. You do.
Yes.
You get vetted.
So
Yes.
just not anybody with the money can go and
Correct.
Yeah, it's. I know that Paul and them have talked about that in the past. It was invite to start, or you had to
Yes.
fill out a form, and then they turned around and they vetted you.
Yes.
And while the vetting process wasn't well known in talking with Paul and them, it's like
Mhm.
like you said, an hour conversation. They want to know who you are, what you're about.
Yes.
So yeah, no, not just anybody can jump in that. They're real careful too with who they let in there.
Yes, for sure.
you know.
I think this year we had 180 something applicants and we took 126.
Yeah.
So it's not unlike what everyone says. It's not everyone who applies gets in. It's very rigorous in ways that are, in my opinion, more important than the fishing aspect of it. So that's where you get that good culture at.
Yeah.
so it's almost like a qualifying stage is what MLF would have or BASS.
It's kind of like that, but
Different stages.
they really take into account your character.
Yes, absolutely.
Because and I just know from talking with Paul Benson that that's
yeah.
very important. They don't want a bunch of Yahoo jerks fishing with them, and it doesn't matter how good they are, because they don't want that on their on that stain or that. There's a question right there: better fishing in the winter, Sinclair or Oconee? Now, have you been on either one of those?
I have. Yeah, I like them both pretty well. I like Oconee a lot better. I feel like I've just done better there. BFLs and things like that. Sinclair, I have a love-hate relationship with. Still a fun lake. A lot of options there. You got your grass, your trees, all that good stuff. So it's different than your Lanier and your Chatoogs and all.
Yeah.
But I like Oconee.
You like Oconee? Okay, so that would be, if you had a choice right now tomorrow and you were going, you go to Oconee.
Yes.
What would you be throwing at Oconee right now?
This may make you mad, but I hate a jig. I hate a jig.
It don't make me mad.
I hate a jig.
You hate a jig.
Yes, hate a jig. But if I go to Oconee, I will be throwing a jig and a chatterbait and probably a big spinner bait.
Now, why do you hate a jig?
It's like you're dragging around a piece of grass all day. Like it's not.
Okay, well, I mean, it is.
That's probably the most interesting description I think I've heard.
Yeah.
So you don't throw a Carolina rig either, then, do you?
Like I said, I will throw anything I can get them to bite. Is that one of my top options? No. If I
He's got to dig way on down in the rod locker to throw the Carolina rig.
I've won tournaments on a Carolina rig,
Yes.
but like I said, that's not my top 5 by no means.
Well,
But-
being adaptable is what it's all about.
It's what?
Yes.
Being adaptable.
Being
Okay.
adaptable.
But you're a log guy.
yes.
So let's say you win a tournament. All right, Carolina rig. Here's the conditions.
Yeah.
I hate throwing it,
Mhm.
but I'm going back to that lake at the same time next year.
Yes.
Are you going to bypass all the other stuff because your past says, hey, Carolina rig worked, and you're going to throw it based upon your logs?
No. So that is where history can really mess you up. in
Okay.
fishing. So I learned this on Lanier a lot too. You cannot put too much stock in what you did last year, last month, last week.
Uh-huh.
It'll change on the day. Will I have it tied on? Absolutely. Will that be my first option? No.
So you'll try to do everything else before
Yes.
that, even though you've had success on it.
Correct. Yes. Like I said, fishing is so much day to day. You've got to be versatile in everything that you do.
I think that's pretty interesting, though.
You said the south end of the lake earlier on Lanier, where
Yes.
you would spend 75% of your time.
Yes. Yeah.
Where would you do it on Oconee?
Oconee, the Sugar Creek side. The Richland side, I feel like has a lot more bass in it, a lot more quantity, but I feel like on average they're smaller. So I will stay in the more stained waters on the Sugar Creek
Yeah,
side.
now you fish Oconee a lot. Yeah, he's one of them flatlanders down there.
Okay,
He likes to
okay.
fish down there.
I
Flatlander.
fish the Richland side, though.
The Richland side.
Okay.
Eat-
And I
listen,
don't have a ton of history there, so that was just my takeaway from the times I've
Everybody
been.
fishes the Sugar Creek
Yeah.
side, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tim, if you're below Cumming, Georgia, you live in the flatlands.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, once you get to Cumming, we start getting hills up here. So
Yeah, you do.
everybody south of Cumming's flatlanders and all that. If you could pick one lake
Mhm.
anywhere in the nation to go fish tomorrow, where would you go? And why?
Man, that is
And
tough.
why?
That is tough.
Or do you have a dream destination?
Really, not really, as far as lakes go. Yeah, I would love to go to the Sam Rabens, the Okeechobees, the St. Lawrence rivers.
Yeah.
Would love to go there. If I had just one lake to fish, though, it's hard not to say Lanier, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Wintertime, amazing fishery. But probably up north somewhere, the St. Lawrence, the Saginaw's, anything like there's 1,000 little lakes up there just slap full of fish that have never seen a bait before. So that up north somewhere.
Up north
Yeah.
somewhere. We spent some time in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go to San. We were on the upper towards the upper peninsula and all that. It is beautiful up there, and the fishing, at least what we experienced, we wasn't bass fishing. We were fishing for the salmon. It's amazing.
Yes, it is
I don't think anybody realizes it. You think up
Mm-mm,
north, a bunch of Yankees, but the fishing is.
phenomenal.
Now, granted, they don't get the fish, but unless they're ice fishing, they don't get the fish but a few months a year,
Yeah.
all that. So, I'm supposed we might be going to Maine in a couple of weeks, ice fishing. If it all pans out, we might be going up there to film an episode. You ever been ice fishing?
I've never been ice fishing.
I haven't either. So
Never been.
Maybe that happens. So Sam Rayburn is overrated. Tyler, it's still Tyler. Tyler is playing devil's advocate tonight on
Yes,
everything
it's
like
always
that.
got to be
No,
somebody.
that's just Tyler. If I could count on him to show up like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't. But listen, I mean, it's not overrated.
Listen. I don't.
Or do you think it's overrated?
No, I would love to fish it either way.
Yeah.
You follow Oklahoma. It was a grind to get 5 bites a day. I would gladly go back there tomorrow and fish.
Really?
Yeah, it's just something new, something different.
So you like the new aspect of a lake, trying to figure it out?
Yes.
What
that kind of
intrigues
stuff.
you about Okeechobee?
It's just grass. I don't have a lot of history fishing grass. I would love to learn how to grass fish.
You
more.
fished it a lot, didn't you?
Mhm.
Yeah, he
So-
lived in Florida for a
Okay,
time.
yeah. So that would be my whole reason. Okeechobee, Kissimmee, any of that down there, just because I have no history doing that. Very little history doing
I
that.
learned on Lake Toho.
Okay, that's
On
awesome.
Toho, yeah.
Yeah,
Where when people say they're fishing deep, it's 10 foot.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that is deep
But
in
it's-
Florida,
yeah.
ain't it?
Well, yeah, 10 foot deep in Florida.
10
Okeechobee, I think the average depth is 8 feet.
I always find that amazing that as you progress different parts of the country,
Mhm.
like deep here, Lanier,
Yeah.
guys are some of these guys are fishing 50 foot,
Oh, yeah,
right
yeah.
now. 50,
That's nothing.
that's
Yeah.
nothing. But Rob, Robert, but he's from
Mhm.
Florida. He came
Oh, yeah,
up here and
yeah.
he was like, man, I'm used to fishing,
yes.
Okeechobee and all that. 10,
Yeah.
10 foot deep, 8, whatever. And
Mhm.
now he's trying to figure all that out. Let me ask you this. What's your weakest? Everybody talks about their strengths. We talked
Yes.
about you being for this. What do you suck at?
Yeah. So 2 things: grass fishing.
Yeah.
100%.
Lack of experience.
Lack of experience, definitely. And also like timber fishing. Like you get some of these lakes with all that sand, like the.
Now, are you talking about Lake Lanier timber? Or are you talking about standing timber
I'm
with the
talking
trees
about
coming out of the water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of your Texas lakes, things like that. Just kind of navigating is more harder than anything.
Yeah.
So grass and standing timber lakes. Like I love fishing timber on Lanier, but you get it where you get big timber fields out through there, like a Santee
Yeah.
or somewhere, and I wish I could pick it apart like a lot of the guys do.
But you just don't have a lot of experience.
Correct.
on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Have
you'll
you
gain that
been
over
to
time.
Chickamauga and tried grass and
I
stuff
have
like
been
there,
to
or maybe Nickajack?
Yeah, I've been to Chick a few times. Like I said, I don't have anybody to show me, how to grass fish. I've never had anyone to show me how to spot fish. So I like learning this a lot on my own, I guess. But so it's different. It's difficult getting started.
Pull up Joey Metcalf's comment right there for me, please, sir. I've heard of stories about Lake Weiss. I'm truly terrified to take my boat there, but want to fish it one day. I think it's an unusual thing for a deep lake fisherman. And have you fished Weiss?
I've never fished Weiss.
So it's Ron Swinford who he's probably gone to bed. Take him to hard labor. Oh, you need to go to hard labor. We'll talk about that one too. Yeah. He lives over that way, and it's like if you get out of the river channel,
Yeah.
you talk about the stump fields
Oh
and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But over there, they just tear your boat up because
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of guys don't see it. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of dangerous right there. Have you fished any of the local electric only reservoirs?
I have not. No.
I need to hook you up on a couple.
Absolutely.
So like hard labor is one, actually about 7 miles from here. That is Latham Reservoir. Fish is just like Lake Lanier. It's got spots, it's got largemouth, it's got blueback herring, and it's 340 acres, and it is deep.
Interesting.
It is. So it didn't get stocked with spots. They came in through the Etowah.
Yeah.
And it didn't get stocked with blueback. Somebody dumped them in there. But you know how the Lake Lanier bite is, where all of a sudden an acre and a half will come up blowing up on top.
Oh yeah.
Latham is just like that.
That's awesome.
And you can drop shot. You can suspend the fish. Can't put a bass boat in there because it's electric only.
Yeah.
No glitter rockets.
Yeah, glitter. No glitter rocket. Well, some of the guys in our thing have glitter rockets. They just got an Elko or an e-propulsion pushing them. We don't blast off. We zoom off at 9-10 miles an hour.
I've seen.
Yeah,
It's
I need to
cool.
hook you up. Yeah, that or Rocky Mountain up there. Especially
I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah,
I've heard they're big fish in Rocky Mountain.
I've heard there's a big fish or two in Rocky. There are some electric only reservoirs in the state of Georgia that are just ungodly.
You read Tyler's?
I type fast, evidently. So maybe, you do tonight. You know, you're on your game tonight for
You
sure.
were going quick there, no caps at all.
What do you think about the electric lake in Canton? It's called Hickory Log, and our nickname for it is Dinkery Log. It is Dinkery Log. It is a largemouth lake. They will school up there and all that. So it does, but you got to go through about 20 to 30 14-inch fish. But you do have the possibility of catching. I saw one caught last year. It ended up it was high 11s.
Wow.
High 11. So it has some big fish in there. Good lake to fish. You'll catch numbers. You'll definitely catch numbers at the right time. So surf data is getting better. Yeah. So it is. It's all about the bait. And I guess that's pretty much true with any lake you fish. It's all about the bait, you know, what you're fishing. On Lanier right now, do you think they're keying in more on the bluebacks or the threadfin? And I'll tell you why I say that. Because I've heard people say that in the ditches, the bluebacks aren't really there right now. The threadfin are. And I've just heard that. So what's your experience?
So obviously I'm torn. I love chasing the herring eaters. They're keyed in. I feel like the herring almost smaller this year. Could just be me. Could be more threadfin, whatever it may be. But I feel like you get true herring eaters. They're going to eat your bigger baits. They're going to eat your faster baits, your things like that. Those threadfin eaters, they can get so keyed in on such tiny bait that it gets hard to match something to that size.
Right.
So as far as whether they get bigger than the herring eaters, I don't think so. I think your quality is going to be, you're going to have 20-pound bags caught of herring eaters and of threadfin eaters. I've done both.
Right.
Catching a 5-pounder and it spits up a glob of threadfin like that.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, it just changes what you're throwing as far as what they're keyed in on.
I want to say this. Everybody wants to be here's the thing, Joey Metcalf. Everybody wants to be on the herring fish just so they can throw those ridiculously large swim baits. Do you throw any of those ridiculously large swim baits?
No, I max out about 6 inches. Do I love throwing a big glide bait and watching them? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Springtime, I will, just to draw them up, just to see where they are. But as far as the tournament goes, I will not be throwing anything bigger than 6 inches.
All right. Let me ask you on that, based upon that comment. Let's say you throw a big glide bait.
Yeah.
You draw them up. Then what are you going to target them with?
The wacky rig is always a good choice.
It is. It is.
Yeah. So I will do that because a lot of times your betting fish are going to follow it. They're going to chase it, whatever. You will rarely catch them. And so you can spend the whole day frustrated at watching 30 pounds follow your bait, or, circle back an hour later, 30 minutes later, whatever.
Yeah.
And approach it from afar and just be pitching something like a wacky rig or a shaky head or something up there.
Yeah. I think you guys need to understand now. This guy was runner up in the NPFL in Angler of the Year last year, and he has said the wacky rig at least 10 times tonight. So other than Dane Hunter and myself, you guys need to take note that I know a little bit when I say that. It works, does it not?
It does.
So let me ask you this. So let's talk wacky rig for a second before you get out of here. You like throwing it weightless, or you throw it with a weight?
Weightless. Now, wintertime, I will Nico rig it, which I consider it still a wacky rig of sorts.
Yeah. It is. It's just a different name for
It
a
is.
wacky rig.
It is.
It's a wacky rig with a nail head in
Yes.
there. So,
Yes.
host, it's marketing right there at
It
that
is.
point. Let's
It's
call
good
it a
marketing.
Nico. Let's
More,
call it, yeah.
very smart.
Right.
You're in trouble.
Why?
Look at Brian Marcason.
Y'all look the same age. Yeah, well,
Who are
Brian
you
looks
referring
the same
to?
age. No, listen. You know why Brian's saying that is because he looks exactly like the both of us too. So like that. So yeah, Brian, you ain't no spring chicken yourself, buddy. I know you.
Brian, I'm 71 years old.
Listen, and I'm 51, but I've been run through the ringer, so my body feels like it's 71. I was rode hard and put up wet quite a few times back in the day. So,
What color wacky worms or colors, if it helps you?
Yeah. Keep it simple. Green pumpkin. I will do like a baby bass color. When I'm sight fishing, I'll use a white.
yeah,
So too many people get caught up on all these colors.
Yes.
Keep it simple.
so I do that on if I'm fishing a largemouth lake
Yes.
and I'm throwing the wacky, I will have like your green pumpkin, yambers,
yes, for sure.
those kind of colors. If
Mhm.
I'm on a spotted bass lake like Lanier, I always throw like the monster shad.
Yes.
It will always be a shad color
Yes.
because those spots that hit a green pumpkin.
Oh
if you
yeah.
throw,
Yeah.
of course.
Absolutely.
But I think they key in on it because it looks like a bait fish down
Yes.
if you get that color.
Exactly.
So do
exactly.
you do that
Yeah.
based upon
Absolutely.
your
Yeah.
lake?
Yeah. You got to match it to your bait.
Yeah.
If they're shallow, I'll throw green pumpkin on spot eaters because they're up there eating bluegill.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
right.
It just depends. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So like when I'm skipping on that 30-foot dock and just letting
Mhm.
it float down, it's almost always going to be the
Yes.
shad color. You said baby bass. It's very
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
to what I
yeah.
throw
Mhm.
and all that. It's just those little subtle changes. But I'll be honest, I've never thrown a wacky rig in a bed. So you'll
Mhm.
try that too.
Oh yeah,
You'll
yeah,
throw white.
yeah. That is one of my favorite ones.
I'm gonna have to pick that up. So I
Yep.
learned something.
Mhm.
I always throw. Now I tell you what works on a bed that nobody throws. That
Mhm.
everybody thinks I'm crazy is a Ned rig.
It 100% works.
You throw a little bitty Ned
Mhm.
rig in there to where I don't care how big that bass is, it's not intimidated by it.
Mm-mm.
Now, granted, you're throwing it on light tackle,
Yes.
and you got to be if there's a bunch of stumps around, you
Mhm.
might not get it in, But
yeah, yeah.
Might be in for a ride, but
they will have you in for a ride. But
Yes.
I'm telling you, seriously, pitching a little, it could be a green putt. I won a tournament
Mhm.
on Rocky, which is one of these electric only lakes. We all of a sudden the sun come up, we're like, oh, bed, and
Yeah.
they would not hit. We threw the standard white stuff in there,
Mhm.
and I had a little pack of Z-Man, little watermelon red craws.
Yeah.
And I put them on a Ned rig,
Mhm.
and I pitched it in there, and it was one right after the other.
Mhm.
You could just pick them off, every single one of them.
Yeah.
And and the big girls would hit them too.
Mhm.
But everybody thinks I'm crazy.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
So have you done that before?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. So it's not just me. So good.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good. On your wacky rig, do you use the rings or you just do the bait?
Whatever's convenient at that time, honestly. Like Lanier, I usually try and shy away from the rings just to make it look a little more natural. But I'm not real picky with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Joey Metcalf says, Yum Dinger's baby, y'all selling the Costco size packs. Actually, we are carrying 100 packs here in the store, and I don't have that size, but I am placing an order to restock the store. And those are some of the ones, because you can get a pack of Yum Dinger hundreds, and they're not much more than a pack. Now, I like Yamamoto's the best. I don't know what it is. They are the best.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's one fish.
Yes.
It's like a kitech.
Yes. Yep.
You're good for one fish.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I do like them the best. But I tell you what I do with the wacky rig. And sorry, all you guys, we're talking about the wacky rig that you're probably sitting there going like, oh, I know some of you made the puke faces.
well, hopefully they're picking what you're picking up what you're putting down.
Well, here's something that I learned. And tell me, I want to ask you about your hook size because starting to trout fish a little bit more.
Mhm.
And I noticed that we're catching monster trout on these little bitty flies. So what I have done is I use the smallest hook I can possibly get away with, even a number one
Yes.
sometimes. And I only use an O-ring when I'm having to cast a long way.
Mhm.
Other than that, I'm
Yeah.
sticking it in
Yeah.
there. But that hook, there's not much hook exposed. I've seen guys wacky rig with a 5/0 hook before, and they'll catch a fish.
Yeah.
But I like going with the smallest hook,
Yes.
and that's just based upon my trout fishing experience. Now,
Yes.
you just got to pin them. Now,
Yes,
you can't
yeah,
force them
yeah.
with that small
Mhm.
hook. What kind of hook do you use when you wacky rig?
Yeah. So normally I use, just a Gamakatsu 1/0 little.
So
wacky
you go
hook.
small.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go small.
Yeah. No matter what it is, swim bait head, worm hook, do go the smallest that you can get away with.
Yeah. I think it's made a difference in the
Mhm.
in the numbers that I've caught.
Oh yeah.
And I don't have a problem. I mean, once you hook them, you hook them.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
just have you dragged a little lighter and all that
Yes,
stuff.
yes. Yeah.
There was another question too that I had. Oh, drop shotting.
Yeah.
Because you said you want to drop
Mhm.
shot. I know some guys nose hook, and I know some guys that will Texas rig
Yeah.
them with a smaller hook, but they'll
Mhm.
Texas rig. Do you nose hook or do you Texas rig when you drop shot?
So once again, that kind of depends where I'm at. Places like a Lanier, I will nose hook. Places like a Santee, you follow it, I will Texas rig hook.
And is that for the weedlessness or why?
So yes and no. Not for Lanier. Lanier, I do that to get away with the smallest hook possible.
Okay.
Just use a really little, almost like your smallmouth fishing. Now, granted, if I'm fishing a lot of brush piles and all, I will throw a Texas rig hook on there.
Okay.
But predominantly spots, nose hook, largemouth, Texas rig hook.
Why is that? Just the way they hit it, or?
Largemouth don't typically care as much. If they're going to eat a bait, they're going to eat it. They're not quite as picky most of the time as spots.
Yeah.
And also with largemouth, you're normally around a lot more cover, brush, docks, trees, whatever that may be. So that weedlessness helps come through.
Okay, so it's not about the presentation; it's more about where you're fishing.
Yes,
the
the
weedlessness.
circumstance given. Yes.
Okay, all right, I got that. You got any more questions for this young man?
No, it's been a pleasure listening.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Tim? You've been quiet tonight.
No, I've been
Tyler
enjoying it back
Minix
here.
he's kept you busy tonight, has he not?
Well, everybody has. Me watching all this stuff back here, but no, I don't have any questions. I think it's been a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, Tyler did have a comment right there. Wacky rig on a drop shot. I do know guys that do that,
Yes.
Yes.
and it is a deadly.
Not a bad idea.
thing. You know, it's actually one of those things that not a lot of guys talk about.
Mhm.
You know, they won't say I wacky rig a drop shot,
yeah.
but I know the guys that do that,
Mhm.
and they have good success. So I tell you what. So again, this has been the first time I ever met you,
Yes, sir.
and you as well over there in the crowd. It's been a pleasure. You know, and I tell you what, your answers tonight are, I feel mature for your age, you know, like that. And I you have answered our questions very well tonight compared to a lot of guests, and you know, so you good information. But the most impressive thing with me is how fast you've risen,
Yes.
and you know, I know where you want to go, but I think it says a lot to you as a person, as an angler. You know, just like you seem like you got a good head on you.
Yes.
You know, like
yeah.
that. So that's
Definitely
good.
try.
That's well.
He
Listen,
thinks quick.
he thinks quick. You answer the questions quick. You didn't have to do a lot of this, and
Mhm.
you know, you're learning about being an adult while being an adult. You know, like doing
Yes.
adult things. So
Yes.
so that's impressive right there. So, we look forward. And here's another thing too: is when somebody comes into the shop that fishes at NPFL or
Mhm.
whatever. Now we have another name and another face
Yes.
to root for.
Yeah, for sure.
So we
For
will
sure.
definitely be
Yeah.
rooting for guys like you and Trent. You know, I
Yes,
know you'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
competitive
Oh,
against
yeah,
each
yeah.
other and Rob and all that, but it's
Yeah.
it's very good. Yes, Ned rig on the bottom of a drop shot is something that I actually do from time to time. Got one more question for you.
Yep.
For prefrontal prefrontal windy morning tomorrow. What you throwing on Old Lanier?
So if I'm going to go on Lanier tomorrow
Yeah.
and try and win a tournament, I will probably stick a crankbait in my hand for quite a while, at least for the first few
Throwing a
hours.
rock crawler or something like that?
Yeah, just because they've predominantly been a little shallower this year.
Yeah.
Now, real windy, sticking with that crankbait or whatever that may be, something fast. You know, it slick calm. That's when I'll throw the shaky heads, the light swim baits, all that kind of stuff.
I got you. Okay, so good.
But
Appreciate you answering that last question. Guys, listen, it's been a fantastic show. You guys definitely need to follow Will on the NPFL. Now, you can watch it on Fix TV.
yes, sir. Yep.
That is PHYX, right? Or
Yes.
XX
Yes.
or what. So
Yeah.
Fix TV. And they, you know, if you're up there in the leaderboards, they like on day two, you got the camera in the boat, so you can
Yeah.
watch the guys live fishing and all that. So
Yep.
now, for those of you that did not know Will, now you can put a face with the name and all that. So we definitely want to thank you for taking your time to come down here. I know you got a long drive home, and but it's going to be a pleasure to watch, and I hope you win AOY. Now
That's the goal.
I told Trent I hope he wins AOY too and all
Yeah.
that. But seriously, I hope you have. I hope
Yeah.
you were able to sustain last year
Yes.
and even go above.
Oh,
it
yeah.
all
And the
that.
wheels may fall completely off this year. I have no idea,
But
no
dude,
expectations,
listen, but you're doing it.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
go for it.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of guys, hey,
Absolutely.
listen, a lot of guys wish they were doing what you're doing,
Mhm.
but they never went for it.
Yes, that's the biggest step is
Chase
just
your
making
dream.
that
Chase
first
your
step.
dream. Chase
Yes,
your dream. So,
absolutely, absolutely.
man, it's been awesome night. So, guys, hey, listen, we want to appreciate you guys watching tonight. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. Sorry about that first 30 seconds tonight with no mics. Hey, listen, we're just a bunch of old yahoos here talking about fishing, and but we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, Kevin, for coming down as always, and Tim for running the boards. And we will have another good episode for you next week. Actually, I think I'm going to break down the book. We'll have a guest, but there's a book that Ken Pruitt gave us, that bass fishing. It's a lot. We're going to break down another book that's got a lot of interesting research about bass behavior.
Mhm.
And so I think next week we're going to dive into that book. And like we did that last one, it was a really good show. Maybe we'll learn a thing or two. So again, hey, appreciate you coming down.
Yeah,
You
thank
guys,
y'all.
appreciate you for watching, and we'll see you next week.